Hello, Phil Crowshaw again. It's now the 14th of August. We are halfway through the month nearly, with another 15, 16 days to go of live streams. So today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by, I'd say probably as much as a business acquaintance, a friend really, and that's Lateef Badat. And we're going to be talking about all sorts to do with COVID and post-COVID and the challenge people have got and overcoming those challenges. So coming up now.
I want to be there and baby dance the night away. I let my head down if I want. Don't you just get tired chasing fame and being pretty all the time? Doesn't sound like fun. You can do better. Let me show you what a good time looks like. You can do better. You can do better. Let me show you what a good time looks like. You can do better. I dare you to be wilder. My shoes off if I want. Let yourself be free and maybe you will find that there is more to life than being pretty. Honey, let's just face it. Baby, let your head down, be a little wilder. Baby, kick your shoes up, you don't have to hide it. Baby, let your head down, be a little wilder. Baby, kick your shoes up, don't hide it. I don't fit into your box, beauty queens without no flaws. You can do better. I dare you to be wilder.
And there we go. So very warm welcome, Lateef Badat, to this show.
Thank you.
And we've been planning this and plotting this for probably what must be 2 years, I think, probably. Anyway, the good news is you're the 562nd, I can't even say that, 62nd interviewee, but by far the most important. I had to add that in, didn't I?
Thank you very much indeed.
This show's about you, not me, Lateef. So tell us a little bit about your good self and what it is you do and what you've been involved in.
Okay, well, thanks very much for having us on. Good morning to everybody that's on here. Bidding you a good Friday morning from sunny Lancashire. So my name is Lateef Badat. I'm a business and confidence coach. I help businesses generate more leads through effective business pitching, public speaking, networking, sales, and presentation skills. And I combine all that together. So it's like once you meet somebody, right the way through to them building those relationships up towards the end, which enables that person for them to buy from you rather than you feel the pressure to kind of sell to them, which nobody really likes being sold to. During a lockdown, I've particularly been working with businesses on some of those areas, but mainly about refocusing, business agility, regrouping, business focus around planning what they're going to do during the challenging times and also when they come out at the other end. Some business owners have also got me into work with their employees who are working from home, feel a little bit isolated, possibly lost their mojo, motivation, and need to get the mojo. So it's very much a combination between looking at the bricks and mortar of the business and also, more importantly, the people of the business.
Right. Okay. So first question I've got to ask you is, how's the world changed for you, Lateef, in the last few months, which is a bit like a dream scenario, or some might say a nightmare scenario. But how have things changed for you, generally speaking, would you say, in the business?
Actually, this might sound a bit cruel, but it's kind of worked out better for me because Previously, I do like to get out and about. I do like to network face to face. I do like to meet people face to face. So that's been brilliant. And I don't think you can beat that, really. But we've had to adapt. We've had to change. So I'm spending a lot more time at home. Nearly all my time is at home. I never used to use Zoom that much, to be honest with you, just informal meetings, never for clients. Well, it's all gone on Zoom now. And I'm able to travel to lots of places. Like I could be in 3 places or 3 counties by lunchtime. And some of the posts I've been putting on LinkedIn have been a bit of a, they've either been written, I've been saying, oh, I'm in Blackpool this morning, and then my next stop's been Chorley, my next one Manchester or whatever. So that's helped. But essentially you are at home. I wouldn't say cooped up, because it's the mindset thing. It's how you view your circumstances, and very much about reverting back to your big why in your business and the value that you're going to provide through products or services. So that's always helped. Family, I used to drop my kids off in the morning around about 9ish, well, a bit earlier than that, and then not really see them till late afternoon or early evening, depends where I was. And now, during homeschooling, we've kind of timed the breaks in terms of what time I would have a break and what time they would normally have a break at school. Say with lunchtime and late afternoon and lots of time after that, because there's no commutes involved, there's no business travel involved. So that's hugely impacted in a positive way. Then we've had summer holidays. So again, I've continued working. I've got a week off next week, but lots more time with the family. For all the people that may have previously sat there, and if they've done any work on themselves to look at work-life balance and thought, one of the key things for me, besides all the business stuff, is to spend more time with the family, then through very, very unfortunate circumstances, we've had that, whether it's been by force because we've had no choice. I know it's been a challenge for some people with the homeschooling, and even myself included. I was having a chat with somebody yesterday, and I said, I hope the schools open back up on September. They better open back in September, because I'm dropping the kids off in September. I'll pick them up later on, whether it's open or not.
Yeah. When the schools open,
that was more about the effect. Yeah, I'm just saying, get your uniform while we're dropping you off. See you later. But Dad, it's not open, right? See you later. Don't forget your packed lunch. But joking aside, what it's been is it's more about the effect it's had on them. There's no person we can put the finger on, really, in my opinion, because the teachers have had something brand new put on them and saying, right, you've got to do teaching this way, you've got to communicate with the students in this manner, and people, all the rest of it. So they've done as best as they can. I have to say my kids' teachers have been fantastic in terms of sending them work, marking work, communicating with them as much as they can. But it's not just my kids, they've got other kids to look after. So I think overall, the school did try their best to cover up with different interventions. And then, because we're in Lancashire, we've got Lancashire County Council Directive, then we've got the school, and then we've got the majority of the parents, whether through a survey, which they disagreed with, to send them back. Overall majority is we don't feel our kids are safe. This was earlier on. But yeah, over time, I've seen that they're missing out on that social aspect, because, we are kind of boring parents at home and they want to be with the mates. So I think, go on.
So what I was going to say was, I think that's absolutely right. I guess my own view, and I've not got, as I say to people, I'm not Nostradamus. I just have a view, and it's a bit cliche, but kids are pretty resilient. And back in my day, because I'm very old, even older than you, I think, mate. I can remember going through the winter of discontent and strikes and stuff like that, and people kind of don't believe me. It was like the times of Dickens, and you were lighting candles to see. And your mum and dad go, oh, lights are out, right? Okay, and this is real. This isn't. I think it was the 70s. This isn't like 1901. And when I look back at it now, it was a bit of an adventure in a sense. But then I don't think back in those days we were bothered or even particularly aware of mental health or stress. It was just you just kind of got on with it in a way. So I think kids are pretty resilient. I suppose it depends a lot on how long it goes on, doesn't it? And how much kids and people look back on it in a year when there's a vaccine and say, oh, blimey, that was a crappy year, wasn't it? Or that was a tough year, wasn't it? But obviously, the longer it goes on, then it becomes much more a way of life. And that's a whole different conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a child of the 70s. I remember those blackouts, and I remember my dad getting the candles out. And I got a funny story once where I said, "Oh, I've got these other candles," and what it were, they were actually joke candles. Where once you lit them, you couldn't put them out. So I gave them to my dad. They were only tiny and thin. He went, "No, these are no good. We'll just use them." I went, "No, these are really good. One's in red, one's in blue." Anyway, he's trying to put them out. They're just not going out.
Were you a bit of a joker then as a kid?
A lot of pranker and a bit of a rebel. It's carried on with me. When people say, "Are you busy?" I said, "Yeah, it keeps me out of trouble." Who knows what I get up to? But the resilience in them days seemed different. And if you think about our lifestyle growing up, we could take an empty cardboard box that you might find in an alleyway or a ginnel, as we call it, and make loads of things out of it. So I think there was that bit, and I remember kind of playing around half demolished, newly demolished homes, and being a bit of an adventure of what you find in all this rubble, and then making go-karts out of old prams, the bigger wheels on the back, and all this sort of stuff. So in terms of mindset, this is where I'm going with this. In terms of mindset, we weren't really in our rooms playing on PS4, or even when Atari came out, it came out a little bit later on, and you had Space Invaders, that was a bit later on. So if you were at home, you were creative, and I think that had an impact on your brain. So that, we used to play board games, but we'd also do things I'm doing with my kids now, just simple things like I Spy and word games, just simple word games. So the resilience in those days, it was different because the 70s growing up, there's pros and cons for that era. But overall, because you're all in that mindset, I suppose, or in that vibe, you kind of just got on with it. And as kids, we used to find it quite hilarious when it just used to go off, and we're sat there in pitch darkness. We just used to think it was a bit of a laugh,
It's a novelty factor, isn't it, when you're younger?
Yeah, and then it was something.
I've actually got a question here. Sorry, mate. I've got a question here for you, actually, from somebody just asked a question from Jamila. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's not Yamila, Jamila. I'm not sure which. And she's saying that she's thinking about going into coaching. And is it something that you would recommend in these difficult times?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you can help somebody, I'm all about helping people. And we have different vehicles. Some people do it through the power of film and video, some people do it through consultancy, some people do it through a product, and some people do it through services. So coaching, definitely look at things. I would say, first of all, speak to a coach, somebody's been doing it for a while, find out their journey, and look at why you want to help people. So that's going back to the big why, and what sector maybe would you feel. So if you come from a creative background, you might want to be a creative coach or a coach for creative businesses. Or if you do things around mental health, you might do stuff around that. But, really look into the difference between coaching, counselling, consultancy, and other therapy-based businesses. Because if you take the word coaching in its pure sense, it's just asking questions and not really. So I do a mixture because I've been trained and as a business advisor, and I've got the qualifications and stuff like that. I do a mixture. But yeah, definitely look into it. Especially at this time, there will be people seeking somebody to speak to, and if somebody can help them, guide them, and help them with an action plan at the end of it, I think it will be rewarding, and it would make an impact to somebody's life, but also communities and business. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that whole thing about the difference between mentoring, counselling, listen, we're in this game and it confuses the hell out of us, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm always getting in trouble from some of the public sector bodies because I'm brought in as a coach, but I struggle as a coach because I can't help but want to come in with solutions.
Yeah.
And as you just said there, the whole coaching theory is that you're asking questions and you're getting them to come up with the answers.
Exactly.
And I struggle. I'm itching to get in with well, I would do that and try that. So I zip around from mentor to coach to consultant and, zip around that arena all the time.
I think if you was...
I just struggle with it.
Yeah, if you was mentoring me or this is my opinion, by the way, but if you were coaching me or mentoring me, whatever form you used, maybe somebody else gave you that title. But if they turn around and contact me and say, right, we've got you somebody you can work with to grow your business, Lateef, in X, Y, and Z. He's called Phil. You arrange a meeting. So you arrange a meeting. If you can help me get past some of the, not seeing the wood for the trees, if you can help me with a solution, if you can get me some self-awareness, self-realization, if you can at times even be a little bit more direct with your opinions or suggestions and say, well, what I would do in your position is take this, and put it online, do some test trading. And if I leave that call or that face-to-face meeting a better person in regards to my overall goal, which might be I want to sell more mugs, I want to sell more of these online and they're made of these sustainable materials, and some of the money goes to good cause. I think if the end result is a positive one and I'm motivated and somebody interviews me and say, right, you had a call with Phil a week ago, what's it led to? And if I turn around and go, yeah, I've done this, and I'm seeing him again in 2 weeks' time, and then we're looking at manufacturing, or we're looking at saving costs on whatever, I think that's a good thing. Sometimes the labels get given to us.
They do. Do you think that, just made me think there, do you think that it's better to be a generalist or a specialist?
For me, it's definitely being a specialist. There's certain things I don't like. People say to me, your social media game is really good, but I'm just playing at it, really. There are people that do that far better than I do. So I might have some skills, but it's not, I wouldn't really go and help somebody write a digital marketing strategy, social media strategy. It's not something I would do. I would help them look at the main components. If I need to make a referral, I can do that. It depends how big the organisation and what they exactly want to do at the end, and what resources they feel they can invest in it as well. Because sometimes people might want an all singing, dancing strategy, but they really don't want to have any commitment or buy-in, and especially when it comes to financial investment, it's like, oh, well, we thought we could just do all this on the cheap. They don't say that, but sometimes that happens. But for me, it's much more about specialisms, and that some of those specialisms have been honed over time. So that's been a reflective process for me as well as a coach to see how I've been able to benefit. So, for example, the biggest change I've made over the last few years is I hardly do any B2C. Very rarely. Very, very rarely. So my business model now is all B2B, and I'm working with more people-focused organizations where they need to have three things, essentially. One is an understanding of exactly what I can do for them. Second one is they need to be able to appreciate the value I bring. So similarly, if you was to do a series of digital marketing strategy things, certain amount of video, you can see something, there's a tangibility there, but sometimes we don't always have that until you go through the process.
Oh, crikey, that's so true. That's absolutely so true. And I think the appreciation of the value is a big one. And people have short memories as well. Now, I've been in meetings where, later on, you might have experienced this yourself, where ideas are being discussed or debated, and somebody will say, "Oh, I'll tell you what, that has worked. That idea about X, that's just worked an absolute treat. It's probably the best thing we've done this year." Yeah. And then you say, "Well, are you going to thank me then? Because that was my idea, don't you?" And they all look at you and they go, "Was it your idea?" Well, yeah, it was actually. So, you know what I mean? It's that whole thing about sometimes those ideas that are forgotten in terms of who exactly came up with it, and without your input, the idea itself would have never even arrived. But then, of course, that's difficult for people to put a value on because they're used to paying for time a lot of the time. If that makes sense,
of course it does. So, I mean, in terms of that, the first thing is obviously they understand exactly what you do. B, they've got to be able to appreciate and value it to the point of you getting a website done, for example. You know that you're paying X amount for a website and it's a thing that can look at and show other people. Yeah. And the third option is they need to have the sufficient, investment there. So something I was on the other day where there was somebody doing powers of attorney. if people know about that, linked to estate planning, but powers of attorney giving somebody, if somebody's not capable of looking after their own estate or affairs, you can hand it over to somebody else to look after your thing while you may be incapacitated, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they were talking about pricing, and this particular person was saying pricing wise is somebody was saying, I can get it done for this much. And what I've always been taught through my coaching journey is not to devalue yourself and undersell yourself, but then there's also a duty on myself and the industry, so the coaching industry as it were. So if, for example, you're a coach and you're charging, just say £100 a session, and I come along in the same geographic area offering similar things and it's £40 a session, but if you look and do a comparison of 10 other coaches in that area, anything between 80 and 100, and then you've got Lateef coming along at $39.99, right? So what does that tell you? Does it tell you that what is the two things? One is about the impact it's going to have on somebody else, to think, well, how come it's so cheap if the majority or the medium is between 80 and 100? And even if I end up getting a few clients, I'm doing a disservice to the industry, because it's not it's not an advantage in terms of the value you've put in for any training that you've paid for, the experience you've had, but also going beyond that, the impact you've had. If you can create that kind of impact for people and you've been doing it for a number of years, then I don't think it's fair for anybody else really to come in and undercut them in that way. But hey ho, it's one of them things sometimes. That's why I don't say I've got millions and millions of clients. I've got a decent amount of clients. They're all B2B, and they're out of that slice, you could say, is your target market. I'm working on a very thin slice because they need to meet those three criteria of understanding, appreciating, and investing. But going back to what you were saying, it's very, very important to look at those sorts of things as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. And obviously, you and I know that initially when you're looking at potentially working with somebody, it always makes sense to have that meeting to work out what is just simply the chemistry. Yeah. And it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because sometimes you meet people, and I've always thought this is a weird thing. Sometimes you meet people and you just hit it off, you get on, and you're on the same wavelength, and it's just working. Mm-hmm. Other people you meet for no real reason, you can't put your finger on it, but it's just going like that. Yeah. And then you try a bit harder to kind of create that connection, and quite often when you try harder, it gets worse. Yeah. So how have you gone on with, or what are your thoughts on, obviously now a lot of what the work we're doing in that arena, as you were talking off air, is Zoom related or online related and video related. How do you think it impacts on trying to establish whether there's a chemistry there, trying to identify that through a screen as opposed to a physical get together with a nice latte or whatever you tip?
Yeah, I think part of that is about the background. So how that meeting was organised in the first place. Did you do it by phone? So even if you're on the phone, you cut out unless you're doing FaceTime or something, but you can very, very much focus on the voice tone. So you can stop building rapport from the word go. If it happened where it's an email first, I'm sure by that time they'll have checked. I don't really get any brand new, stranger clients. I usually get people that I've known for at least about a year and a half. Mainly through LinkedIn, that kind of thing. So people kind of know about you already. Very rare when I get somebody that just says, listen, I've got a referral for you. You don't know them. I'll make the connection. But even with that, imagine you referred somebody. If I've got a good kind of brand positioning with yourself, so you mentioned several kind words at the beginning of this before we went live. So you already have prepped that person. For example, I know Lateef, I don't know, he does car detailing, he's really good, he's done my car, he's done our fleet, blah, blah, blah. And this is what's happened. So by that time, the person should be excited up to a point to even explore things. And then once the introduction's done, it's how I communicate in that email, or whether it's an initial Zoom session where we're all there. I think your personality needs to shine through. I put a little post out this morning, which is all about being authentic, looking at who you are, celebrating who you are, being comfortable with who you are, and not maybe kind of compete with people. I'm very much about collaboration, not competition. And so, for example, if I was in the same industry as you, but I'm based in Lancashire, let's just say you're good at Manchester, I think I could learn things from you, even if I might go, well, I think this guy's Premiership and I'm kind of Division 1 or even Championship at the best. So rather than me trying to find
I'm
out...
Vauxhall Conference, mate.
I thought rather than find 50 different ways of trying to prove I'm better than you, I think, well, let's just look at the facts. And that's about being honest with yourself and then establishing some rapport with yourself over time. And like I said, it's taken 2 years to get to this point, but if you think about it, I've always tried to kind of put a little message in here and there. When I sent a video up the other day, one of your streams, I was kind of following it up. Now, when we talk about mindsets, it could be, do you know what? I don't think he thinks I'm, worth any salt. It's been 2 years. It goes off, and especially when you're working from home in lockdown, there's loads of pressure on people's heads sometimes. And yesterday I gave a talk to a group of businesses, and I talked about thoughts, feelings, and behaviour. And that can work on positive or negative. So you could have a positive thought, which leads to a positive thought, positive feeling, which then generates your initial action. But on the other side, if I had held that, we wouldn't be here today, because I could have just gone away and thought, I don't think, he rates me much, he's ignoring me, how many times do I need to contact him, blah, blah, blah. And they're just excuses, because I don't really know, because I'm not, like I said at the beginning, I'm not able to put myself in your shoes. How do I know how your business has been affected? How do I know if your business has grown? If you've pivoted and you've probably done, like, say, 50% less film, but 50% more now of one-to-one coaching, consulting, mentoring, all that lot. It might be that you just forgot. There's so many things. I'm not next door knocking on your door every day, so you might just forgot, which is, we're all humans. So I think that's part of my responsibility, that if I want the time to come on your stream, I should be like kind of gently nudging and encouraging, hey Phil, I'm still here, type of thing. And look what's happened. I've not rushed it, I've not been impatient, I've left it open, maintained relatively that rapport going right the way through. So in order to answer your question, there's all that background, which is really, really important. And then imagine we've just come on after that. Couple of things. I used to do this at the beginning where I only used to look at you. So if I'm looking at you now, I'm not looking at the screen. So it may look like I'm looking down a little. So in order for me to appear that I'm looking at you in the eyes, I'm going to look at this little white dot, which is a bit exciting. If you remember the TV in the old days at midnight, it always used to close down and be a little dot. So what I've got to do is I've got to flick. It's like when you learn to drive and you do that whole mirror signal thing, and you're kind of glancing at the mirror, and then obviously you've got to look up the road. So I'm glancing at you, and I can see now very, very quickly of your eyelids, your facial expression as if you're smiling, if you're nodding your head, and then I've got to move back up quite quick. So it's a kind of that diagonal movement. And if you use your peripheral vision, although I can't exactly see your facial expression now, I just saw you nodding. So I've got to move around. Sometimes if I'm asking a certain question to that client, then I will look at them at the face and I'll see what kind of that comes with years of experience of what is mastering what we call the micro muscle movements. If I asked a particular question, sometimes people might lean back. That could mean anything. You can't read too much into it, but sometimes because you're working on an unconscious level, you connect the dots. And if I start then pressing you on your, I don't know, let's just say you're trying to get more sales, and then we start looking at what your sales strategy is. We start looking at how many things you've been doing to get to that. And then you start crossing your arms, and then your tone slightly changes, and there may be some resistance. And the resistance might be quite openly that you might think, I'm going to get you to do loads of cold calling. It's an assumption. And really, that's not been my intention, but that's what you thought. And that could be where the conversation starts taking a different thing. So if I spot that, depending on how much rapport I've already built, I'll say, Phil, just a quick question. Which is the best way you'd prefer to engage with potential clients? So that's a coaching related question. And you might go, I do this, I like doing that, I need to do more of this. But one thing I'd really hate, Lateef, is cold calling. Again, and then it's where we go with that, because it depends on the business. The business might not need cold calling. A mate might say to them that I do 5 hours of cold calling a week and it generates all this money. But for that particular business, like cold calling wouldn't work for my business. If I'm trying to sell you something, it may not work for your business. If I'm doing new camera equipment, lenses, editing software, studio equipment, new platforms for interviews, whatever it might be, or a software to manage all your clients, I don't think a cold call will probably do it. I think some more rapport building and you knowing the impact of what it's going to give you, and that will be the relationship side. So that's what I would do there. We can only see within reason the top half of the body, but there's a lot we can do because there's probably less to focus on, I suppose. You've got shoulder movement, and if you pay attention, you can also hear people's breath and breathing. And as a good coach, you're asking certain questions in one way, certain questions to clarify, certain questions to summarize, certain questions might be open-ended, some might be closed questions on purpose. And when you put all that together with the power of maybe silences, so if I then if I knew that we're talking about something that's a little bit challenging and it might have led to other things happening in the past. So I might go, well, give me an example why you feel your cold calling game isn't as strong, or you really hate it, as you've said.
Yeah.
And if I leave that kind of silence, they may fill it. They may just still be adamant that it's just not what I want to do. And part of my role as a coach then isn't to force them into doing it. It's to look at the best way forward to reach their goal, which might be getting more sales.
Yeah, of course, with silence, when you're doing online, of course, can actually mean that your microphone's broken.
Yeah.
Or if you're live, you're popped out of the stream. You tend to jump in a lot more quickly, actually. Smith's on. Hi, Steve. Great to see you. Steve says, as you can see there, he absolutely agrees. You have to let your personality shine through. And sorry about that. Let your personality shine through in all communications. And I know Steve, I think he's in France at the moment, and on the announcement this morning, when he comes back, he'll be in lockdown. I bet he's delighted that I'm actually pointing that out or reminding him about that. But I did actually have a brief conversation with him yesterday, or a brief message with him yesterday. And I said I wasn't sure whether France was looking a bit precarious. So anyway, I think everything you've said makes absolute sense. And what you find though as well, we do quite a bit of stuff about confidence on camera, which of course was always in the live world. Now it's about confidence on camera now on the virtual world too, which I couldn't have believed that would come steaming in to the degree it has and the speed in which it's come in. But you almost on camera, especially, particularly when you're actually talking, doing a presentation, or you're doing a pitch or a feature, a vlog, or whatever you're doing. You have to exaggerate. You have to exaggerate your body language and exaggerate your facial expressions and exaggerate your smiling and take your voice up and put your energy up. And the weird thing is, if you do it without the camera, it just sounds weird.
It does. Yeah. What I've said to people who I've helped in that area is, if you watch, I was going to say the news, but you have to take it in doses nowadays. So any sort of presenting thing, and look at the way they go up and down and where they stop. And when I've been helping people with their business pitches, I've said, obviously you might know it off by heart by now, but if you was to do a new improved one, as it were, think about where you would put your commas and where you would put your full stop. So rewrite it. And if it needs to be bang on 60 seconds, fine. If not, if there's places you go to that can have a slightly longer, same with if you're doing a short presentation by Zoom, or if it's a pitch for a piece of work that you've put in and now you've got to present online in order to win that work. Again, give yourself time to make sure you know where you need to accentuate certain words and put that energy in. And it does feel weird because we don't usually talk like that. But once people start talking like that in terms of getting a little bit more used to it, even in a social setting, they can maximize what they do and the way that communicates with that audience. And sometimes you can overdo it just for a laugh and have a bit of fun with it. But, I've just recently working with 3 separate clients, 3 different businesses, and it was all to do with they didn't want to do stuff on video to then be posted on LinkedIn. And we've got male, female split, so we've got different people for different reasons coming up with different scenarios. So I've worked with them for about 2 to 3 sessions each, and then successfully they've all gone and posted what they needed to do and tagged me in and all the rest of it. So there is a huge section, I'd probably say 50%, as you probably know, is your planning and preparation beforehand, knowing, oh, well, what it is, when I look at the camera, my mind goes blank. So if that was what happens, I look at sort of relaxation exercises, get them practicing. So I had them all doing a week worth of exercises where they were speaking to camera on topics that I kind of encouraged them to talk about, but that wasn't released. They sent me those things and I can watch and give some feedback to anything simple as lighting, movement, and say, look, you were halfway through a really important thing, and then you cut it off with drinking some water or a brew and stuff like that. And then each one, we get them to say, right, you do some self-reflection. What is it that you liked, rather than set off with improvements? Because if I do that, they might go, I didn't like my hair, I didn't like my glasses, I didn't like anything about myself, Lateef. So I'll go, what is it that you've got to be objective, you've got to step out yourself, and it's got to be the person that can only look at positives or objectivity. Once they come up with that list might be short at first, but then over time it gets longer and longer, and then the area of improvement or area of development might be larger at first, and that starts reducing. So one kind of shrinks down and the positives go up, and then it's like, right, we need to, because the thing is, you can give me all the lessons in the world about how to swim. Okay, you can take me to the side of the pool after doing loads of videos on it, loads of books, and you can mimic all this. At some point, I need to walk incrementally, maybe, or descending into them steps, little bit at a time, get the water comfortable up to the knees, then the waist, and then, right, okay, you know the techniques, let's just go with this. And that's the way I tend to work with all my clients on different things, especially those things that challenge them. But when you were talking about ideas before, one thing I've been able to do is, in the past where I've worked for somebody, I've been able to influence people by making them actually believe it is their idea. Because sometimes the office environment can be a bit complex, and it's like, well, I'm not having Lateef telling me these ideas. I'm the manager, I'm the director, I need to be the one. Well, in my head, I'm thinking, well, how come you're not coming out with them then? So what I've got to do is influence in a way that they believe it was their idea. But overall, if the outcome is better for that team, or if I'm in that team and it's better for me and the rest of the team in terms of a decision being done, then it's worked. And I've even gone and said to people, oh, really good idea that, knowing I could see the picture in my head when I mentioned it, where we were and everything. And they're like dead smug going, yeah, but for me, I've done it behind the scenes, that it's still a win for the team or the clients we're working with. Now, if it's a private client, I get them to do a number of things, short forms, and then a check-in within the session, and we're looking at how they feel they've developed during like the first session. So if it was session 1 today, I'd say, right, Phil, in terms of you mastering a 60-second pitch or networking online, you've been putting it off, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And you might go about 3. I do a little bit, I do it because I have to, either I'm a BDM or it's my own business, but if I can avoid it, but I do it, I don't enjoy it. And that then comes out in the 60 seconds, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when they go, well, I don't really get much from networking. So, right, next time you're on, I'll jump on with you. And then what I do is I kind of see that, what energy they're flowing. Like our friend mentioned from France, it's you've got to believe in it to that way, because if you're not passionate about it, how me and you going to be passionate about it, or stuff like that. So once we get to that, they'll say 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. I'll go, right, fine. Just jot that down and make sure they jot that down. We'll do the session, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And then towards the end of it, part of my goal is to remove blockages and look at things in a different way, all this sort of stuff. And I'll say, right, on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of you going to a networking tomorrow, feeling excited, big smile on your face and doing your kind of new improved 60 seconds, where are you? 10 being, Lateef, get out, I don't need you anymore. And they'll go like, 6, 7, 8. It depends where they're at. I'll go, right, okay, so what's changed? And then they'll tell me what's changed. They'll say, what can we do to improve? I've got them from using the vocabulary of I hate, I don't like, to, do you know what? I'm going to improve this. I'm going to improve that. And that's called reframing in the kind of coaching or NLP world. but that's part of my job. That's what I do in terms of. But the satisfaction comes from when they text you and go, "Got an inquiry," or there was one where they belong to one organisation where if you do the pitch really well, you get a trophy. So after only 2 sessions, I got a text message saying just won the best trophy at my networking group. So that's the bit that I think, do you know what? Additional value for my client next time we meet, or it's made me feel really good in terms of how they have put in the work in between the sessions.
No, I mean that kind of feedback is invaluable, and you're right. It does make it absolutely worthwhile when you get that sort of thing. And I've had a few of those over the years, and it's very, very satisfying. I'm conscious of time, but just before we conclude, I've got a question here from Alex, saying that he's actually employed at the moment full time, but he wants to do coaching on the side, or as he puts it, part-time he says part-time on the side. Is that something that you think is possible?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If anybody wants an informal chat with me, you've got my details, Phil. You can pass them on. You've got my email. More than happy to pass them on to the people who've actually asked the questions. What I would say is it's a good way to do it, rather than maybe just pack the job in, especially at this moment in time, and go, listen, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to be a coach in whatever area. So doing something part-time. When I did my studies years ago, but I did a distance learning, and it took me probably the time it's taken us getting on here, about 18 months, 2 years, only because of I was working. I think I was working full-time. I loved what I was doing, by the way, but there was this other part of me, because I ended up working with a coach. So I had a coach, many, many years ago. She helped me remove loads of blockages. She helped me look at things in a completely different way. Each time I was going back to her every other week, I was telling her all these incidents and scenarios. And that's when she said halfway through, if you're handling things like that and you're helping people like this and like that, maybe you should look into becoming a coach yourself. But it took about another 6 to 8 months by the time I finished researching who was providing the courses, which ones are free, how good they are, which ones you pay for, what do you get. The times have changed now. There's lots more courses, probably lots more free courses. But yeah, is it Alex? You can tell that Alex doing it part-time is good. There'll be tons of stuff on, say, online. There'll be YouTube videos that you can look at in terms of what is coaching, what it's not, what makes a good coach, coaching principles. If you look at those, you get the basics, and then find out when you want to maybe start studying. Give yourself a date and a time, and also look at why do you want to do it. Who do you feel you can add that value to? I originally used to go around saying I'm a motivational coach, and I thought I could coach everybody in the world. And I had several iterations, which has led me to today. We're not doing any B2C really. It's all B2B. The only B2C I do is, for example, if you're employed as a BDM or that type of role in a professional circumstance, and you happen to be out and about, you come across me and say, listen, I need help to do X, Y, and Z. The company really isn't going to pay for it, so I'm going to self-finance that myself. So that's the only B2C kind of stuff I do.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And I think, there's a huge debate that goes on about whose responsibility it is actually on learning and development and professional development and personal development. I have a view and again, it's my view, as we always say, but I just think you have to take personal responsibility for your own learning. I think if the biggest benefit to learning is going to be for you in the medium to longer term. It's going to make you more valuable, make you more knowledgeable, make you more attractive, I suppose, to employers. If you wait for the company to train you, then I think you'll slow it down massively. And I do believe, having seen a few dips and dives and recessions over the years, I do actually believe that this is the absolute time when the finance directors are going to be all over those spreadsheets, putting red lines through training, which is a horrendous thought, and it's a ridiculous thing, but it tends to be the way it goes. Hey, maybe things have changed. I doubt it, but who knows? So, learn yourself. And of course, as we all know, learning now. If you can't find learning materials, videos, and everything, then I don't know. It's time for it perhaps to totally give up, because YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world after Google, and now you've got things like whether it's TED Talks or downloading actual courses or formal things like Skillshare and LinkedIn as one. I think it's Linda, isn't it, that they
Lynda.com.
So
good.
there's no shot, forgotten what you call it now. Audible, Kindle, and everything else. So there's no shortage of opportunities, and that goes the same for coaching as well. There's a million different coaching consultancy type books. You just got to put the time and the effort in and the energy in to actually make it happen. Lateef, I'm going to have to close there. It's 45 minutes in, and I know we could go on for another 5 hours, because I know you well enough to know that, because I know you've got a lot to share. And thanks for that. And thanks for some of the practical thoughts and ideas, because sometimes these things can be a little bit more about the theory, but there was definitely some nice practical top tips that people can watch. Brilliant. Now, obviously, this video is available very soon. Once we finish live streaming, it's available as a recorded video. It's on Live Streamers Association on Facebook. It's on my personal profile, and I will send a copy to Lateef as well, so he can put it on his website or on his wherever he wants to put it. That's his prerogative. And I definitely will talk to you again, mate, because I'm looking at September. I'm trying to bring in a few different people who've been on the shows as a kind of a panel. Yeah. So it'd be great to have you on as part of a panel discussion. As a kind of like the total conclusion of live stream, the live stream in August. And I suppose the reason I push on about live stream as much as anything else is it's uncomfortable and it's dangerous. And I don't know what you think, Lateef, but it always seems to me that you learn the most when you're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a little while ago, I thought to myself, how can I increase my brand awareness with the business, but also myself? And I thought to myself, I know what I'll do. I'll get on radio. I've not been on a training course, but I have been on certain training courses. But what it is, to everybody that's listening, and a reminder to myself, it is that carpe diem, seize the moment, seize the opportunity, seize the day. Contacted them. It just worked out that I ended up speaking at a business expo called Love Local Expo in Burnley. I was already on Twitter with a guy called John Gilmore, who was a presenter over at BBC Radio Lancashire. So straight away, when we were talking about this rapport building, we'd been back and forth on Twitter, for example, and he spotted me. He was on the mic with his producer. He put his hand up. So I went over, had a little chat. He goes, finally met you in the person, blah, blah, blah. And then he introduced me to the producer. And the producer said, oh, I believe you're doing a talk today. I said, yeah, it's upstairs. Da-da-da-da. He went, do you fancy doing a quick interview now? Like in about a couple of minutes. I went, of course. And Richard Branson, I think, has said in some of his books that first thing about going, yeah, of course I can, and then work out, if you've not got the resource, work out how to do it. It doesn't work for everybody. It depends. You don't promise the earth. But simple things like that, say yeah, and then go and cry in the toilet if you need to. Go, what have I done? I'm going to be at radio. Go and ask somebody, but don't waste that opportunity and go, oh, you know what? Wait till I go on Phil's course for, talking on media in 6 months' time, and then I'll go. So what I did was I sat down. And some of the stuff is basic. Don't swear. Don't mention anything that's going to get you in trouble, and speak, because I've had a bit of stuff anyway. So in a way, I was hitting the ground running, and then he actually just said, "This is the producer. Oh, you should come to the studio at Blackburn, and we'll do some stuff." So I went, "Yeah, fine." So actually, I nailed him to say date, time. Let's get it in the diary. All that lot. Once I was in there, it was kind of, I didn't want him to get rid of me. So each time I finished one interview, I'd be straight back out into the production kind of booth, and I'd say, right, Gaz, when do you want me on again? Which is an open question. When do you want me on again? Not, can I come again? Which he'll go, yeah or no. It was really good to me until he moved into presenting a different one. But I have been on, I haven't been on during lockdown. I was on before lockdown. But I'm still plugging away at different places. Won't mind getting on here, won't mind getting on there. Same with there was another chap to do with business again that was doing his own version of a stream on StreamYard. So there's been a couple like that where some have been private Facebook groups. And I've always said, yeah, and then work out. But you've got to do your due diligence sometimes as well. So you would have known beforehand with yourself and everybody else. I'll always work out, what's the nature of the show, blah, 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 what questions you're going to ask me. Now, sometimes people don't have them because it's more of an informal chat like today. But it's just knowing how long we're going to be on for, what kind of questions, what kind of themes. If I can prep myself a little bit, I'm giving myself as much opportunity to come across, fairly coherent.
Yeah, you certainly do, and yeah, I mean, you've done that. You've very much done that with me, and you know me well enough to know I'm not going to suddenly ask you what's the best cross stitch to use when you're knitting a jumper.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go that much off piste.
I'll get the missus in. Chill now.
You're going to surprise me now and say, well, it's funny you should ask that, Phil.
Funny you should ask that, Phil.
Yeah, anyway, going to call it a day, and we'll get you on again in September on the panel show. Tomorrow's Saturday, but we're still going. We're doing 31 days of live in August. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing a montage. I'll show you a montage of some of the best bits of the last 15 days of live streams. I'm sure there'll be a clip in from this one as well, Lateef.
Right,
so thanks very much for joining me, mate. I really appreciate it. And great to see you again, as always.
Likewise.
Let's do the little wave.
Yeah.
Little wave, online wave. Great to see you, mate, and take care. Look after yourself and the family. Cheers, mate. See you. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
And bye-bye to everybody till tomorrow. See you.
See you later, everyone. Bye.